Brandon Miller named to the all-first rookie team. Now we get to shame some voters who didn't have him on the first team. We have another mock draft, and we have another assistant coach to talk about all today. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods, and that includes YouTube. Make sure you go check out Doug Branson on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com, and you can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday, 12 to 3 p.m., Sports Radio 92.7 FM. All right, Doug, we have Brandon Miller making the first-team all-rookie squad, which is, of course, something we already talked about. We pretty much figured that was going to be the case, although it pretty much happened exactly like I thought, right? It looked like you were going to get Brandon Miller on the first team, overwhelmingly so, being put on the first team, but there were still going to be some stragglers that are a little late to jump aboard the Brandon Miller train because the Charlotte Hornets are so bad, and it doesn't necessarily reflect what Brandon Miller's season was all about, despite having more votes come in and trickle in for like second or even just off the both teams entirely, which only happened with one guy. Brandon Miller got in there pretty easily, 97 first-place votes, 1 second-place vote, and then the second team was Derek Lively of 26, Jaime Jaquez, Brandon Pajemski, were 89 first place votes and 64 first place. Before we get to second team, that's where Derek Lively came in with 26. You wanted to shame some voters today, though, Doug.
Yeah, but before I do that, because I don't like to start with the negative, I want to start with the positive.
Okay.
And the positive, I want to go back to the Rookie of the Year ballots because those were also released. And my guy, Stan Van Gundy, voted Brandon Miller second on his Rookie of the Year ballot. So we found out who the lone person to have Brandon Miller second on the Rookie of the Year ballot, and it is Stan Van Gundy, friend of Steve Clifford. I don't know if you've seen his episode of South Beach Sessions. Wow.
I have, yep.
Revealing powerful stuff there from Stan Van, and knows his basketball and knows that Brandon Miller is going to be an exciting player in this league for many years to come. Okay, I've gotten the positive out of the way. Now let's talk about all of these fools who left Miller off the Rookie of the Year ballot. I mean, I'm not even getting to the all rookie yet. The Rookie of the Year ballot. Here are the folks that left him off: David Aldridge, how dare you? Mike Greenberg, what are you doing? Zach Harper, come on. Rick Bucher, Frank Isola, Dave Pasch, Kevin Pelton. I mean, we all knew that one, right? Right, Walker?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, which, it hurts when you have, lots of these people, I respect their basketball opinion a lot. They're really smart dudes, and that's what hurts the most, Doug. It would be different if it was just a bunch of guys that don't watch mid-market teams and don't pay attention, and that's happening for sure. But like we can say that about everybody. Like, I do think Kevin Pelton is watching. I do think that's happening. I do think with some of these guys that are, very ingrained into the fabric that is NBA, not only advanced metrics, but just even watching. Like, those guys are grinding film too. That's the thing that I don't understand. And that's what hurts more than some of the other votes that come in against Brandon Miller.
Well, yeah, I think some of this is a national, because a lot of these, there were some that I'm leaving off of this list. This is like a notables list. So there were other people from smaller organizations that also left Miller off the Rookie of the Year ballot. But I think some of this is like national guys watching national teams, and so they're going to favor Pajemski because they just got to see him more, or they're going to favor Jaime Jaquez because Miami was in contention throughout the season. And so there's some of that. And then I think there is some, like with Pelton, I think there are some people that penalize Brandon for playing for the Hornets and the Hornets record being what the Hornets record was. They're penalizing him for not single-handedly lifting a terrible team without the context that, there's not really a human alive. Victor couldn't do it in San Antonio, and they were relatively healthy this year. And the Hornets were not healthy at all. So there's a little bit of that. All right, back to the shaming. Dennis Scott, Stephen A. Smith, and Michael Wilbon. again, national guys. That I'm telling you, they watch Golden State, they watch Miami every single night, and so they're like, who's the rookie on that team that I keep seeing play a big role? It's Brandon
Stephen A. Smith
Fajemski.
did it. Stephen A. Smith is the guy. That was it. That was the one that got me just so mad that my equipment started to fall. That was it.
And then the final name on the list, and this will take us in to the actual discussion here. The final name on the list of notables that left Brandon Miller off the Rookie of the Year ballot. It's the same guy, the only person to leave Brandon Miller off of his all-rookie ballot. And that's Kendrick Perkins of ESPN's NBA Countdown broadcast.
This is the guy I was talking about, really. And I appreciate Kendrick Perkins for what he is. He is a funny dude. I enjoy listening to him do all of the funny sayings and give the funny analogies. I'm here for all of that. But then when you say that Brandon Miller isn't let alone first team all rookie, which I think he clearly is, you don't even put him as one of the top 10 rookies in all of the NBA. That's what hurts the credibility of Kendrick Perkins when he starts to give his opinions.
And so here are the rookies that Kendrick Perkins believes are better, that played better than Brandon Miller this season. Mm-hmm. Keontae George, Trace Jackson Davis, Gigi Jackson, Jordan Hawkins, and Grady Dick.
Yeah, there's a couple bad ones in there. A couple bad ones, for sure.
So what's going on here? Is it a case of Kendrick Perkins has some weird agenda against Charlotte, or he simply forgot that Brandon Miller was a rookie that played in Charlotte and averaged nearly 18 points a game? I don't know how you forget that other than Charlotte not being on national television.
It really is possible. I guess that's the thing, because it's not like you can say, well, he's favoring some of the national teams. I mean, he picked Keontae George. It's not like Utah is this media juggernaut that you're picking over the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah, that's a weird one, and that's why we should shame some of the voters. But overall, at least he got in overwhelmingly so. 97 first-place votes to be a first-team all-rookie member, only 2 behind Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama, right? Like, what we're talking about, him being right there with clearly the top 2. So if we wanted to end this on a positive, if we wanted to go with the sandwich method, positive, negative, positive, the other positive is, at least, again, most people, like 95% of the people, had Brandon as a first-team all-rookie member, and that's okay. The fact that you got that many first-place votes, I'm here for that, at least on the all-rookie squad. All right, let's move on. Go ahead.
Well, I have one more odd thing, because so I've got Rod Boone's ballot here from the Charlotte Observer, and I don't know, like, when you look at the all-rookie team voter selections, they're ordered, but they're ordered in a way that I'm not sure I really understand, because like Victor Wembanyama shows up in the first column for the all-rookie first team a lot. And so and then Chet Holmgren shows up in the second column. And so seeing that, I would assume that these are ranked, that you're not only voting all-rookie team, you're saying, all right, first person I'm putting on the ballot, Victor Wembanyama. Second person I'm putting on the ballot, Chet Holmgren. Third, Brandon Miller, so on and so forth. And so the fifth column here being sort of the dividing line. But there are a few wild card ballots, and I'm not sure whether this was legitimately how this was filled out, or if it was filled out possibly incorrectly. But this is Rod Boone's ballot. Number 1, Keontae George from Utah. Number 2, Jaime Jaquez. Number 3, Brandon Miller. Number 4, Chet Holmgren. Number 5, Victor Wembanyama. I think he might have gone 5-1 here instead of 1-5. It's an odd. Maybe the instructions on the ballot weren't quite clear.
Hey, he's doing a podcast. It's a segment reveal. You're going through your top 5 rookies, and you
rank radio. See, he knows how to do it. You don't go 1 Victor Wembanyama. You go 5 Keontae George, and you get to the end. See, Rod Boone is zigging when everyone else is zagging, and I really appreciate that.
That's what he's doing, and he still got the top 3 most important players in there. So he's doing a good job of doing something. Radio thing. He's doing something. Let's move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Charles Lee continues to add to an impressive coaching staff, and at least one that is his own. That's the most important thing here. Let's get to it coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. More Locked On Hornets ahead.
Welcome back to the Locked On Hornets podcast. I do have Rod Boone's NBA Rookie of the Year ballot as well. If you're curious, Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren, Brandon Miller went standard right down the line, first place, second place, third place. Also, we talked a lot in that segment about national bias. The Hornets aren't on national TV. I mean, I don't know about you, Walker. I don't expect them to have very many, if any, national TV games. And even if they have, and I'm talking, of course, about ESPN, TNT, soon to be NBC, but I'm not talking about NBA TV. I'm talking about legitimate national TV games. Even if they get one, even if the league throws them a bone, they'll snatch that bone away if the Hornets aren't in any kind of playoff contention. All that to say that I was paying a little bit of attention to Carolina Panthers universe, and I love the comments that are coming out of that camp in terms of the Panthers not having any national TV love. And their comments essentially boil down to, yeah, we got to go earn it. Like, we're terrible. That's why they're not putting us on national TV. It's our job to not be terrible. And I love that, and I hope the Hornets as an organization and the players eat that frustration, voice that frustration with not being on national television, and take that as an affront in the way that makes them more competitive so that they can actually earn national TV love in the years to come.
Yeah, and the people that wanted a primetime game for the Panthers, it was because everybody gets one, and the Carolina Panthers are the only team that doesn't have one.
Good.
So that's the only argument, but you're right. I'm with you.
I don't know. I don't like that argument. I'd say shoo with that argument. Like I shoo these cicadas all the time in my backyard. I shoo these because I want there to be bulletin board material. That's pure, unadulterated, bulletin board, uncut bulletin board material, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're the worst team in the NFL, I'm cool with you not getting a primetime game. We can keep it pretty simple. Let's move back to the Charlotte Hornets. This isn't Locked On Panthers. Julian Council has you covered on Locked On Panthers. If we go to the Hornets, they have a new coach, Doug. The Hornets hired Chris Gent, an assistant with the LA Lakers. He was there for a couple of years, and he's a well-traveled assistant coach. Also, there's some experience, once more, familiarity with the Hawks franchise. It feels like you have to have had a stop with the Atlanta Hawks during the mid-2010s if you want to be a part of this team, but still well-respected. Really like this. Everybody else seems to be high on Chris Gent coming over as an assistant coach. What are your thoughts on grabbing Coach Gent from the Lakers after spending time in LA for the last couple of years?
Yeah, look, I mean, in all honesty, I did not know who Chris Gent was until I started doing the research after he was hired. But he's, a top assistant with Ham in LA. He was with LeBron James in Cleveland, and so, obviously connected there in LA as well. And something that's interesting is that it appears that Chris Gent was like LeBron's shot doctor in some respects when he was with Cleveland, and he got exposed in that San Antonio finals. And part of that exposure was they forced him to take outside shots, and he wasn't hitting them. And so it seems like Gent was a big part of transforming LeBron James, into a better shooter. And so that's great because I think, a big question for this team is shooting, and they're going to have to work on transforming some of these mid-tier shooters into, higher-tier shooters. And some of the guys that can't shoot at all, can you improve that? There are a lot of guys in this draft that have tons of question marks around their shooting, but even on the team, like Bryce McGowan's, can he be a better shooter? Some of these guys, they have to become better shooters or become shooters at all if you're talking about some of the bigs on this team, if they want to continue to have a role with this franchise in the next few years as they continue to add talent. And so I think that's important. He also has a relationship with Rich Paul, And there are some important negotiations coming up with Miles Bridges, whose agent is Rich Paul. So all of that, I think, are really, really cool like connections for this team to have, hiring an assistant coach.
You mentioned all the connections. I mentioned him being so well traveled. I mean, as a player, the guy was hopping around all over the place. Overseas, he spent time in Spain, Australia, a lot of time in Italy. Actually did spend a little teeny stretch in the NBA, not even qualifying as a little stretch, the game that we used to play a few years ago. No, that does not count. But he quite literally had like a cup of coffee would even be too long. But in that teeny little stretch, he did win a championship at the Houston Rockets in the mid-90s.
Got a ring. So, hey, that's one more ring than Charles Barkley has.
That's right. Although maybe one less than what Charles Lee is going to bring to the table if Boston gets the job done.
Hold on. I just looked up Chris Gent's his basketball reference page. He does have a basketball reference page.
And the nickname? Are you going to the nickname?
I'm going to the nickname. His full name is Christopher Matthew Gent. His nickname is Ivan Drago.
I mean,
if he dies, he dies.
The quote is perfect because I hope that actually sticks a little here so that when he gives us the in-game interviews, if it is indeed Chris Gent, that Ashley Shamady or somebody else, doing big things, ESPN, maybe she's not back, who knows. I just hope Chris Gent says something like that so we can continue to call him Ivan Drago.
And also he won a championship in 93, 94 with Houston, and I don't think it's a coincidence that, Chris Gent is hired after Michael Jordan no longer owns his team.
There you
because,
go.
Michael Jordan would not put up with that. That's a championship that didn't count because Michael Jordan was not in the league at the time. So, one more thing on the Gent stuff, because I did find an article, and I linked this on everyhornetsboxscore.com, but I found an article that was like really recent, January of this year, where I think it was the Lakers website did a long Q&A with him. So if you want to get to know Chris Gent, you can definitely do that. But I've pulled the quote that I think goes with what you just said, Walker, in terms of well-traveled overseas. They asked him, how does all of that factor into your coaching philosophy, your mentality, what you bring to the table? And Gent said this, quote, "The experience overseas as a player playing for very critical-minded coaches in college and he went to Ohio State, I think, and being the guy that you can yell at, and then playing for a guy like Rudy Tomjanovich, Brett Brown, and coaching with someone like Mike Brown, you get all these different influences to build your basketball philosophy, mental and physical approaches, what you want the game to look like offensively and defensively, and then your work ethic. I feel like I've gotten the best of all of these worlds, and I haven't gotten a chance to display what I feel and know, but I'm glad it's always growing, and I feel very fortunate I've been able to coach rising superstars, aging superstars, help people become a superstar, and see young teams get better and great teams go young and older teams become successful." So yes, breadth of experience, younger, creativity, love it all. I love how this bench is being loaded out right now.
No, it's a lot of experience. What is funny, though, I was actually going directly to that quote, and then you said, hold on, give me the basketball. This is my quote. You're not talking. I'm going to bring
but to be fair, I copy and pasted it into the rundown.
Where? So. Oh, I see it, segment 3. I was about to say.
Okay, so that you and I were just on the same wavelength then.
Yeah, I did not see it. In the rundown. It's segment 3. Yeah. All right. Either way, Chris Gent does look like a good coach added to the staff. And what's great, last thing here, the fact that Charles Lee is making his own hires, we know that from, at least we think we know that because everybody has familiarity here. Rick Schnall, knowing some of these guys, Darvin Ham, Jeff Peterson, it's all connected. But I do think Charles Lee is able to make the coaching hires that he wants to. And if we wanted to make one more Panther point, that's what everybody got scared about when the Panthers hired Frank Reich. And then we brought in Jim Caldwell and some of these other bright offensive minds, but they never worked with one another. We thought, diversity of thought is going to be a beautiful thing with the Panthers, when in reality, they couldn't agree on anything. And that's how you help a 2-win football team. Well, here you're bringing bright minds in that have also worked together before. So it doesn't look like that's going to be an issue. And I think that's a big deal. Let's move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We have another mock draft. Doug brought one to the table, and we have a new name, folks. A name you have not heard of before. Not on this pod. Not on this one. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets. Okay, I'm excited about this one, Doug. We have a new name to bring to the table, as I just suggested, so I don't want to waste any more time. What mock draft do you have for the people today?
Today's mock draft. It's a mock draft Monday. I am keeping my promise. Mock draft every day until the draft. And we're almost in draft month, by the way. I mean, we are in the final days of May, about to enter June, a month of draft. I'm excited. Are you excited? How excited are you?
I think I'm at peace.
I'm titillated.
I'm not titillated. I'm not that.
I'm totally titillated.
I was talking to somebody about the NBA draft not a long time ago, or it was like, I don't know, a week ago or something, and saying like, it just feels like there's not a lot of pressure on this one. No Scoot, Brandon debate. We have the 6th overall pick, so it's not even like there's a lot of stakes at number 2. For sure, I'd rather have something higher than what is 6th overall, but there's not a lot of pressure. And so it's going to be nice to be able to talk about this without the kind of pressure that came with last year or maybe even in years past. That's how I feel. I feel totally at peace.
I feel like people are trying to trick us into thinking that the Hornets have to nail this pick. I've read that a lot, and I don't totally understand that idea that they have to nail this pick. I mean, it would be great. It'd be getting off to a great start for the new owners and the new for Jeff Peterson. All of that would be great. I don't think nailing this pick is going to be what we look back. I mean, if they do it, it will be like, oh man, they were able to find, a diamond in a really rough draft, and that's awesome. But I just don't think that we're going to be looking back at this draft and going, yep, that was the sort of turning point for the franchise. I think the decision whether to make the pick or not make the pick is actually more important of a decision than if they decide to make the pick, who they make the pick, if that makes any sense. I'm titillated.
You're titillated. What's the mock
I'll
draft?
tell you why I'm titillated, too, because these playoffs are boring. These playoffs have been boring. I hope the finals are exciting because
the games haven't
these
been.
Conference,
the games have been pretty exciting.
It's boring. It's boring.
Okay.
Because Indiana never had a shot. I'm surprised Minnesota didn't have more of a shot. Okay. But, Anthony Edwards, I think LaMelo Ball, look, man, you gotta calm down on the streets and get your ankles in order because Anthony Edwards just gave you an open door right there with that conference finals.
And Tyrese Halliburton, too.
Exactly. Open doors everywhere for LaMelo Ball if he can pull it all together. All right, here we go. Mock draft.
Did you see his truck, by the way? Did you see his truck?
What's that?
You see his truck? His truck that he wrapped? Yeah, he's out here sporting his truck that he wrapped, and it looks decked out. It looks pretty
LaMelo
sweet.
Ball?
Yeah. He's out here showcasing a new car that he's got right now.
A car or a truck? You said a truck, right?
Truck. It's a truck.
Oh, boy. I mean, the only thing I worry about with a truck is that's even less visibility. Right?
I believe, what's hilarious, Doug? I believe it's camo, but I'll look it up. You're talking about visibility.
It's going to blend in. What is it? Oh, no.
Yeah.
I did see Brandon Miller at the Coca-Cola 600, and so I'm glad that at least one of the Hornets stars is doing the right thing with a fast car, which is just to watch it go around in circles for a few laps and then go get a giant turkey leg.
So he wrapped it, right? So it's the same. Oh, wait, no, it might be. All right, now, yeah, it's like black. Oh, man, it's like the black and gray kind of camo from what I see here. Wow. So it's a Tesla Cybertruck.
Why doesn't he just say, next he's going to get like the Wonder Woman invisible airplane? Like, I mean, he's just, what is he doing?
The Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy invisible boatmobile. I think that's next. I'm excited for it.
I need him to wrap it in like one of those hunter's vests that just make you visible in the wood. I need it to be the opposite.
Well, he does. He already has the neon Lamborghini. Nothing more in your face than a neon Lamborghini.
Okay, enough fooling around.
Enough of that.
Mock draft. Not enough mocking the situation around LaMelo Ball. Let's get to some mocking draft. And this one from CBSSports.com. The author, the great Kyle Boone. And he's taking a flyer here at number 6 for the Charlotte Hornets. Let me run down this draft. Alex Sarr goes 1, Risacher 2, Klingon 3, Shepard 4 to the Spurs. Connect jumps up to 5 for the Pistons. So a lot of options here. They could go Castle, they could go Topic, Buzelis, they could go Holland. But instead, he has them taking a Frenchman, Tijan Salon, out of France. 6'9". I said Frenchman, so I guess that would make him from France.
No,
6'9", 212 pounds to Charlotte. The 10th ranked prospect, according to CBS. The 4th in his position of small forward. Tijan Salon. That's the best I can do with the name right now. What do you think?
I think that in a draft that it's tough to nail positional size, I think this is somebody that brings that, which is nice. So if you're looking at the players that do fit the bill on making sure that they are big at their position, I think Ron Holland fits that. I think Salon fits that. It just in the guys that are going to be available for the Hornets at number 6. Of course, the centers are going to be okay. Klingon right there at 7-2 is going to be more than fine. As opposed to the Castles. I think Castle for the most part is totally fine. Maybe just a little bit on the shorter side, but that would not deter me from drafting him. We know that about that with Reed Shepherd. We know about it with Rob Dillingham. So if you feel like you just want to stay away from smaller players and you want to continue to be a long basketball team, because they are that. I mean, LaMelo, Brandon, that's a tall backcourt. If you wanted to stay away from Shepherd and Dillingham because you want to continue all of the wings, slapping at you as you try to drive to the basket, then this would make sense in that regard. Yeah,
very schlappy, the Salon. 6'9", 212. Yeah, he would fit the sort of like Toronto Raptors draft pick. And he can speak
Orlando.
French.
Orlando loves doing that. Yeah, they just drafted a bunch of long athletes and said, all right, I don't care if you can't shoot. We'll figure it out. And
his shooting has improved, but he is raw. I mean, he's as raw a prospect, I think, as you can get really in this sort of top 15. So you would have to figure that out. But yeah, here's what Kyle Boone writes. There was just as much scuttlebutt centered around Salon at the Combine as there was any other prospect, despite Salon being one of the few not in attendance. So, Walker, what do you think about the Hornets taking a guy that was in attendance at the Combine?
They've done this before. I saw Stephon Castle. I don't even know if this is true, but it looks like Castle might not meet with the Hornets either. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I don't want to put that out there as gospel.
He is off the board, ladies and gentlemen. You don't visit Charlotte, you are off the board.
And it used to be a requirement for them to draft you, is that you did not meet with them, and they would still draft you. Different regime, no longer Mitch Kupchak here, so maybe that doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, the fact that he wasn't at the Combine, as long as you take care of some of that stuff and workouts or whatever, then there are ways to figure out what – and if they value the interview more, then you'll be able to interview this guy. So I'm not too worried about it.
He shot 41.5% from three this past season in the French league, which may, I think, still be in the playoffs. 7'1" wingspan on a 6'9" guy. I mean, he's lengthy. It is enticing. It is enticing. But, my question on this pick would be, taking a guy this raw, I'm typically not someone who needs a guy to be immediately plug and play, but the Hornets, if they want to contend or get back to the playoffs as quickly as possible, they have legitimate holes in terms of backcourt defense, in terms of the 3, the 4, and possibly the 5. I mean, they've got some things to fill out, particularly if they can't bring back Miles Bridges, because they let go of P.J. Washington. They let go of Terry Rozier. They let go of Gordon Hayward. Now, some of those guys couldn't stay on the court, but at the same time, that's a lot of talent that you have to figure out, who is going to take that place. And so there are opportunities in this draft where they could have a guy like Holland or Klingon, if Klingon falls, that could be a little bit more we could use that guy today. I don't know if Salon really fits that bill.
Well, and maybe not. The other thing is, too, I think a lot of that depends on whether you bring back Miles Bridges, because if you sign Miles Bridges, now you're not going to have a lot of money elsewhere to spend on free agency. So you probably would like this player to help you more immediately than maybe some other times that they've drafted raw prospects in the past. So we'll see how it goes. But here's a new name for you. How are you pronouncing it? Tijan Salon?
Tijan Salon.
Sounds good. That's it for Doug Branson and myself, Walker Mail. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Hornets pod, wherever you get your pod, including YouTube. Make sure you go check out his Substack as well, everyhornetsboxscore.com. He's writing again. He's texting again. There you can also find subtext information over there on his Substack. Thanks again for making us your first listen. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.